Hi guys, in this lesson we are going to discuss some examples on domain and range of a function. So I wrote down some tips we will be needing for these questions. So for the domain, we can't divide by 0. Also, we can't take the square root of a negative number. Then for the range, the square root can't be negative. Also, the function f of s equals to 1 over g of s can be equal to 0. So we are going to be using these tips to determine the domain and range of the following function. So let's take a look at the first one. F of s is equals to 1 over the square root of s plus 3. Right? So looking at the first tips, we said we can't divide by 0. So this means that the square root of s plus 3 cannot be equals to 0, because if the square root of s plus 3 is equals to 0, this is going to make the denominator 0, but we said we can't divide by 0, so we are trying to avoid that. So the square root of s plus 3 cannot be equal to 0. So we can also say s plus 3 cannot be equal to 0, right? Because if s plus 3 equal to 0, this is going to give us the square root of 0, which is going to make the denominator 0. So s plus 3 cannot be equal to 0. So now we can say s cannot be equal to minus 3, because if we take plus 3 to the other side, it's going to give us s cannot be equal to minus 3. Also, if we look at the second tip, we said we can't take the square root of a negative number, right? So meaning s plus 3 should be greater than or equal to 0, since we can't take the square root of a negative number. So this is going to be s should be greater than or equal to minus 3, because if plus 3 crosses to the other side, it becomes negative 3. So this is going to be s should be greater than or equal to minus 3. So when we combine both of these, we are going to have s should be greater than minus 3, right? S should be greater than minus 3, because if s cannot be equal to minus 3, and if s should always be greater than or equal to minus 3, so this means that s should be greater than minus 3. So the domain for this function is going to be from minus 3 to infinity. So we always use this round brackets when we always use this round brackets when the number is not included. So it is going to be from minus 3 to infinity. Then for the range, we said the square root can be negative. So this is going to be the square root of s plus 3 should always be greater than or equal to 0, since it can be negative, right? And we also said the function f of s equals to 1 over g of s can be equal to 0. So this means 1 all over the square root of s plus 3 should not be equal to 0. So when we combine both of these, we are going to have y should be greater than 0. So the range is going to be, so since y is greater than 0, meaning 0 is not included, so we are going to use this round bracket. So this is going to be from 0 to infinity, because it is greater than 0. So this is the domain and range for the first one. So let's take a look at the second one. F of s is equals to 5s minus 3. So now this is a linear function. So guys, whenever we have a linear function, the domain and the range are always the same. The domain and the range are always all real number. So we are always going to, like, the positive number, negative number, and 0 is always going to work. So the domain is going to be from negative infinity to infinity. Also for the range is going to be from negative infinity to infinity. So we can put in any real number from negative infinity to infinity. So let's take a look at the third one. G of t is equals to the square root of 4 minus 7t. So now we know for the domain, we said we can't divide by 0, and we said we can't take the square root of a negative number. So meaning 4 minus 7t is going to be greater than or equal to 0, since we can't take the square root of a negative number. So now we need to solve for t. So this will be 4 is greater than or equal to 7t, right? When we take minus 7t to the other side. So divide both sides by 7. This is going to give 4 over 7 is greater than or equal to t. So this can also be written as t is less than or equal to 4 over 7. So knowing that t is less than or equal to 4 over 7, we can now write the domain as, so starting from negative infinity, because it is less than or equal to 4 over 7. So it is starting from a negative number. So it is going to be from negative infinity to 4 over 7. So 4 over 7 is included. So we are going to use this shape of brackets. So this is the domain. Now for the range, we said the square roots are always going to be positive or 0, right? So the square root are always going to be positive or 0. So knowing that, we can say the range is going to be starting from 0 to infinity. So because 0 is included, we are using this shape of brackets. So the range is going to be from 0 to infinity. So this is it. So let's take a look at the last one. F of s is equals to absolute value of s minus 6 minus 3. So now we can plug in any value into an absolute value. That is any value, that is any real number, right? Because if we plug in negative number, we are always going to get positive. And if we plug in positive, we are always going to get positive as well. So the domain of this function is going to be from negative infinity to infinity, right? From negative infinity to infinity. So that is, whenever you have an absolute value, the domain of that function is always going to be from negative infinity to infinity. So what about the range? So we know that absolute value will either be positive or 0, right? So in this case, if we plug in s, that is, if we plug in 6 in place of s, so this is going to be 6 minus 6 is going to give us 0, right? So the absolute value of 0 is basically 0. But we are subtracting 3 from the absolute value portion. So the range is going to be from negative 3, because negative 3 is included, to infinity, right? So we are going to start from negative 3 to infinity, because the absolute value is always going to give us positive. So we are starting from negative 3 to a positive number, which is to infinity. So this is the range of this function. So this is how we compute the domain and range of a function.